Hello, everyone. Today we're going to take a look at Catholic Answers' recent explanation of why they are not Oriental Orthodox Christians. Lately, a lot of people have been asking apologists and members of different apostolic churches for a clear reason not to consider becoming Oriental Orthodox. This is because Oriental Orthodoxy is steadily rising on people's radar. It's something more and more are looking into seriously because of the various evidences and proofs provided by various Oriental Orthodox Christians online. And yet, when it comes to responding to the evidences and arguments we present, arguments for why the Oriental Orthodox communion is the very church founded by Christ himself and preserved by his perpetual promise until the end of the age, there has been almost complete silence. No real engagement, no real answers, just avoidance, and sometimes even concessions. I wanted to take a look at this attempt from Catholic Answers to demonstrate an example and to rebut it for the sake of growing dialogue with other denominations. Let's take a look.
Joel asks, why is Catholicism a better option than Oriental Orthodoxy?
Well, this is a question that it's a subcase of a more general question of why isn't X, where X is some religious group, why isn't that as good an option as Catholicism? And the answer is always, the general answer is always the same, because Catholicism has elements of grace and truth that correspond to the will of Christ in a way that other groups that have separated from Catholicism or were never part of Catholicism don't have. So then it's just a question of listing, well, what are those? Well, in the case of Oriental Orthodoxy, well, okay, they share a lot in common with the Catholic Church. Now, one of the points of difference for a time was how we articulated the nature and the relationship of the natures of Christ and how they relate and how the Virgin Mary is related. But that has all been cleared up. It's been realized, at least the way we understand our respective faiths today, we're actually on the same page. We just use different language to express the same concepts. But
here, Jimmy Akin makes a serious mistake. He seems to be appealing to the common Christological agreement that occurred between the Coptic Orthodox Church and the Roman Catholic Church many years ago. But I'm not sure if he is aware of the Coptic Orthodox response to such agreements. After our agreements with Rome, Rome then made agreements with the Assyrian Church of the East, to which the Coptic Synod responded that there still was a true difference in Christology between the respective churches, especially after Rome's decision to make an agreement with the Assyrian Church, which thus reveals bad motives and miscommunication. Take a look at what Bishop Bishoy has to say, who is the secretary of the Coptic Synod.
With the Roman Catholic Church, there are many differences. About the nature of Christ, we signed an agreement, but they went and signed an agreement with the Nestorian Church, the Assyrian Church of the East. So signing with us and signing with the Nestorian is something challenging our agreement. But if we leave this problem now, we speak about other differences. They believe in salvation of non-believers. They believe or accept mixed marriages with non-believers in the church. But nevertheless, we are putting this on the agenda of our dialogue.
Just a quick pause before I keep that video going. The dialogue between the Roman Catholic Church and the Coptic Orthodox Church was suspended in 2024. Just adding this to give you guys context.
Salvation of non-believers, mixed marriages with non-Christians, also purgatory, that is the fire of the spirits after death or after departure. Also Immaculate Conception, that Saint Mary was born free of the original sin. Procession of the Holy Spirit from the Father and the Son, which was not in the original text of the Creed, but they inserted it in the 11th century.
If you even look at the common Christological declaration we made with Rome, it still emphasized there are theological differences that are important and shouldn't be ignored, even though they might be strengthened by non-theological factors. This is not the same as saying there are no theological differences. It still necessitates a preserving of the theological differences we have, just a wider picture that there might be non-theological differences involved, such as political claims, papal claims, etc. Let's continue with Catholic Answers video.
But they have a lot in common with us. They have the 7 sacraments. They have tons of stuff that's in common. Very few differences. One of the most significant differences is they don't have union with the Pope in Rome. And that's something that Jesus willed for Christians to have. He made Peter the rock on which he built his church.
I'm currently working on a very large video refuting the papacy. And in that video, I will have a total and comprehensive response to these claims. But for now, to give a small preview, I will respond with a handful of citations from the many dozens I will share in my future video. For his first claim, one of the things that Christ particularly willed for his institution was that Peter was the rock on which the church would be built. To make such claims without qualification is unbecoming of anyone who claims to be a Christian apologist, Let's see how the church fathers interpret the statement that the church is built upon Peter. St. Jerome says, "But you say the church was founded upon Peter, although elsewhere the same is attributed to all the apostles, and they all received the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and the strength of the church depends upon them all alike." And Jerome continues in another work saying, "The rock is Christ, who granted to his apostles that they themselves also be called rocks." Origen says, "But if you think that the whole church was built by God upon Peter alone, what would you say about John the son of thunder, or each of the apostles? Or shall we venture to say that the gates of hell shall not prevail against Peter, but shall prevail against the other apostles and those that are perfect? Are not the words in question, 'The gates of hell shall not prevail against it,' and 'Upon this rock I will build my church,' said in the case of all and each of them?" Essentially, and once again, I will go into much greater depth in my future video, for the church fathers, St. Peter represents the apostles, and he answers on their behalf, and because of this, he is given the name rock after Christ, who is the true rock. St. Augustine says, "The apostle Peter, as the type of the one true church, for this Peter, first in order among the apostles, often answers singly for all. Peter it was who answered, 'You are the Christ, the Son of the living God.' One for many he gave the answer, being the unity among the many. But this name Peter was given to him by the Lord, and that is a symbol to signify the church, or because Christ is the rock, Peter is the Christian people. For the rock is the chief name. Therefore, Peter is from Petra, not Petra from Peter, as Christ is not named from the Christian, but the Christian from Christ. Peter, and upon this rock which you have confessed, upon this rock which you have recognized, saying, 'You are the Christ, the Son of the living God,' I will build my church." That is, upon myself, the Son of the living God. I will build my church. Upon me I will build you, not me upon you. This is why the apostles are called foundations of the church in the book of Ephesians, whilst Paul says Christ is the sole foundation. Christ himself is the rock. Peter confessed the rock, therefore his confession is the rock. All of the apostles are the one rock in that their priesthood represents the one priesthood of Christ. And because Peter answers for all of the apostles, he is named the rock to signify as a typology the oneness of the church being founded in one man.
He gave Peter a special pastoral commission in strengthening the faith of his brethren.
Here, Jimmy Akin appeals to Luke 22 being a special commission from Christ to Peter in order to further substantiate the institutional prerogatives of the Roman Church, namely that the Bishop of Rome serves in the unique role of strengthening the brothers in the other churches. If this passage truly signified a unique commission from Christ to Peter, belonging exclusively to the church in Rome, and if it necessarily implied that anyone outside communion with Rome is a schismatic, then why is the first appeal to this text not found until after the schism with the Oriental Orthodox in the letter of Pope Agatho? This alone is enough to demonstrate that this quote-unquote biblical proof is nothing but poor exegesis. This is what you call eisegesis. So that I may be a little more generous, I'd like to point out how we find the exact same two Greek words of strengthening the brethren in Acts 14. There is nothing uniquely Roman about this. Concerning the whole passage of Luke 22, Ambrosiaster says, "And to Peter he says, 'Behold, Satan has demanded to sift you like wheat, but I have prayed for you that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned again, strengthen your brothers.' What room is there for doubt? Did he pray only for Peter and not for James and John, to say nothing of the rest? Clearly, all are contained in Peter, for in praying for Peter, he is understood to have prayed for all."
He made Peter uniquely in a special way responsible for feeding his sheep spiritually, including the other apostles who were still there.
Now Jimmy is appealing to John chapter 21, where Christ asks Peter 3 times to feed and tend his sheep. Not only is the same commission of Peter given by Peter to quite literally every presbyter with apostolic succession, of which Peter calls himself a co-presbyter, the fathers have the completely opposite exegesis, that this is any uniquely commissioned authority to one person. Augustine says, "It's not, you see, that he alone among the disciples was fit to feed the Lord's sheep, but when Christ speaks to one man, unity is being commended to us." Augustine also says, "Do you imagine that the Lord is not questioning us? Was Peter the only one who qualified to be questioned and not us?" When that reading is read, every single Christian is being questioned in his heart. So when you hear the Lord saying, "Peter, do you love me?" think of it as a mirror and observe yourself there. I mean, what else was Peter doing but standing for the church? So when the Lord was questioning Peter, he was questioning us. He was questioning the church. St. Ambrose says, which sheep and which flock not only then did the blessed apostle Peter receive, but he received them with us and we with him.
So he gave Peter the central role, and he wants his church to still have someone fulfilling that role. And that person happens to be the Bishop of Rome. That's Peter's successor.
Oh wow, how convenient. Even if I was completely clueless and wrong about the past 5 minutes, and Peter really truly did have these special prerogatives from the Lord, it would still not necessitate that this belongs to the Bishop of Rome. St. John Chrysostom says, since I have mentioned Peter, another Peter comes to mind, our common father and teacher. In this context, it's the Bishop of Antioch, who, as his successor in virtue, has also inherited his seat. It was fitting that the city, which before all the world adorned itself with the name of Christian, should also receive as its pastor the foremost of the apostles. Yet though we received him as our teacher, we did not keep him to the end. For we do not indeed possess the body of Peter, but we hold fast to the faith of Peter. And in having the faith of Peter, we have Peter himself. Roman Catholics would really have you believe that because Peter died in Rome, his blood sanctified the location with magical rocky sheep-tending brother-strengthening superpowers that Antioch, which has its own direct succession to Peter, lacks. Even if Jimmy Akin was correct, we do have a man who fulfills these roles in Oriental Orthodoxy. It would be the Patriarch of Antioch, Mar Ignatius Ephraim II. But Jimmy Akin is wrong about these passages and these Bible verses. We have men who keep these roles in the church, and that is the unity of the bishops and the patriarchs.
So among the things that the Oriental Orthodox don't have, even though they have a lot of really good stuff, they don't have union with the structure, the full structure that Christ set up for his church. So if you want to honor the will of Christ, you want to go to the church that has retained what Christ willed his church to have.
It is you who lack the structure on which Christ willed to build his church, because that structure, that rock, is Christ himself. And when you sever him into two and ignore these differences and pretend as if these differences are resolved, and us Oriental Orthodox are really good Christians who have a lot in common and it's just really the papacy that stands in the way, you are the one who lacks this institution. This is going to be the really sad state for Roman Catholic apologetics henceforth going forward about Oriental Orthodoxy. They have no arguments against our Christology. They know that we are justified in our position, so they have to do these foolish, anachronistic, Protestant Bible verse eisegesis. Once again, this video was just a very short preview of my upcoming papacy video. I will discuss what was discussed here, and I will discuss many other things in that future video. Stay tuned for that. As always, God bless.